Welcome to Courageous Conversations, and today we have with us Varun and Jonathan, or I'm going to call you Dilu because that is what you're popularly known as.
Yeah.
And I feel this is going to be one of the fun conversations that I had on Courageous TV, and then I really believe that this is something that we all need to hear and talk about. And both are successful musicians, and they've been on this journey for many years. And we're going to talk about what that journey looks like for you and how you've been playing a role in influencing culture through the medium of music. Welcome to this Courageous Conversations, and this is the place where we talk about things that matter, things that are real. And this is going to first conversation around music, which we didn't do so far with musicians. So you're the first ones here.
Wow,
Welcome.
awesome. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Pleasure.
So when I was chatting with Naveen Thomas, who's been our close friend, so he mentioned that you both are the nicest musicians in the world. So I totally believe him, and I'm glad that you guys could take time to be here and looking forward to this. So let's start off. What has been your journey like, in terms of how did you develop your love for music? Why don't we start with you? How did it all start with you?
So, growing up as a kid, I've always loved art of any form. I used to love drawing, painting, pretty much dance, music, singing. My dad loves music. There's always been music at home. He loves singing, and he loves his old Bollywood songs. So we grew up kind of like attending. My dad performed with his friend.
Okay.
He used to do shows, even though he, like by profession, he's a cop. He loved performing. Whenever. So he had a musician friend who used to do gigs and these auditorium gigs, and I used to go with him. So we were kind of like exposed to music a lot. And as I kind of grew up, guitar kind of happened much later for me. So for a long time, I wasn't too exposed to playing any instrument as such. I would just listen to a lot and bob my head and have fun. And it was one day after around my 10th grade, so I had this friend in class with me, and so he never told us that he played the guitar.
Right.
So I was at his house, and I saw this like an acoustic guitar kept in the corner, and I was like, wow, like that's like a real guitar. I've never seen a real guitar in my life, So I was like, hey, who plays this? What is a guitar doing in your house? And this is a guy who used to sit next to me in my class and never said anything, never said a word that he would play. Right. And he's like, yeah, my brother and I kind of play a bit, and then he played the instrument a bit, and the whole sound of the guitar was like so inspiring for me. Right. I was like, this is so cool. I want to be able to do that. I'm definitely going to do it. I remember the same day I went to my mom and I said, I want to enroll for lessons. Right. So this friend of mine plays, and he said, there's this guy who can teach. Right. So I started my guitar lessons then. And it's been like a long journey since then. It was a struggle to find good guitar teachers. At least like I'm talking about maybe around close to about 18 years ago when I kind of like started off around 2003, 2004. Right. And it was tricky, finding finding musicians was hard in Bangalore. It was not like there were tons of musicians that you would bump into all the time. You wouldn't even see anybody walking around with a guitar on the street, So it took a while for me to find the right person. And when I found that person in Bruce from Thermal and a Quarter, he taught me guitar, and he kind of really got me into the zone of actually experiencing what guitar is like, And so since then, it's pretty much been no turning back. Okay. I joined Swaratma while I was in college, right. And it's been about 15 years now that we've been together as this lineup, and we've been playing music, putting out albums and touring and doing our stuff.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I still remember Thermal and a Quarter. I remember Thermal and a Quarter, 1 week after our wedding, me and my wife went to that first concert in Bangalore.
Wow. Yeah.
So we came on a honeymoon from Hyderabad to Bangalore, and we said, okay, we have to go to that concert.
It's great.
That's been our journey. How about you, Dilu?
For me, very similar. I was blessed to have been brought up in a very musical family. My dad also plays instruments, so he plays the keyboard, he plays a bit of violin, guitar, and stuff like that. So we being brought up in also a very traditional Christian home, and that too a missionary home. So there was a lot of music around. There was everyday family prayer at 6 a.m.
Right.
No matter what, you have to be there. And so family prayer was filled with music. And so from that age, I remember one of the earliest memories I had was just sitting on my dad's lap and playing on a pedal organ. You press the pedals and the air blows through the reeds and you get music out, and somebody had given it. And so I think they realized that I had a ear for music. And so from then on, church was a big inspiration. Like, the hymns, the songs, and the musicians playing there. So that was a huge thing. And at the same time, I was getting involved with school, the choirs, school bands, brass band, and so play the trumpet, play the trombone. So I think the ear for music was not like, it's not like I'm a keyboardist or something like any instrument was kind of like open to me to go and explore. And soon going into college, there's a band called Slain, which I am a part of, and then there's another band called Best Kept Secret. So it's been like various kinds of music, from classical music. I did all my grades, did all of the Western classical grades, and also got into metal rock music. Played with a pop band for a while. Went to the Grammys for a instrumental flamenco rumba kind of album. So it was like different kinds of music, different experiences, and so it's been a great journey. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, Dillu has been nominated, a Grammy nomination, right?
Yes, like an album I worked on was nominated for a Grammy. Yeah.
Wonderful. So just tell me about this classical music versus rock music. you studied music, right?
Yes, yes.
And was that your experience? Did you go that way?
I never studied classical music, and but I listen to all kinds of stuff.
Right.
So for me, it's always kind of like an oral experience.
Right.
So even when I work in my studio as a producer, producing artists, there's always challenges. Somebody comes up with a song and they say, "Hey, can you help me produce this?" And it may not be in your style. I mean, it may not be in your alley, but if you have the ear for it, you can listen to that kind of music. Like maybe just spend a week listening to that, pick up traits from there, and you can pretty much come up with stuff that just works. So I mean, I never learned in that sense, but I did do a lot of theory lessons. So I did study music theory, I did study composition, songwriting, and stuff like that. So that really helped out. I did a diploma in music production. So all of those things really does help out in a bit.
Yeah, that's great. So, lot of for the sake of all our young audience that are listening to this conversation, I want to ask you, when did you think about becoming a professional musician? Or if there was a journey to it, what was that journey? Because today we hear everybody who can play a guitar says, no, I want to play a guitar all my life. I know it's a good thing to aspire for something like that, but everybody can't make the cut. So I just wanted to hear, what is your journey like? What was your journey like?
For me, the decision was kind of like weirdly very clear. It was one random day in college that I decided that I'm going to be a musician and this is what I'm going to do. And I think a part of it also came because of my peer group, like
So
the
was your
people.
grad college?
Sorry.
When you're doing your graduation?
Yeah, when I was doing my graduation, and so for me, I was kind of always like one of those serious kids in the band. In my college band, I was probably the most annoying guy there because I was like, hey, we have this college jam room till we pass out, but then we pass out, we don't even have a place to jam. So we need to set things up, like I'm setting up for a career in music. And I think it was always a bit of like, man, this guy, like, why is he like, whatever. And, but the thing is, again, a lot of peer group stuff, like until then I used to think maybe I'll do an MBA, maybe I'll work in a big company, these random kind of like kiddish dreams that I would have. But when I started seeing people around me who were older than me, and back then, this whole BPO culture was kind of booming. A lot of IT stuff was happening in Bangalore.
Jobs.
So, but I would constantly see people cribbing. Like people worked in big companies, but they would keep complaining around me saying, oh man, this job, this thing. And I was like, guys, these are like such big companies. Are you like kidding? And the way they were complaining, I knew that I didn't want to do that. I was like, okay, I want to do something that I love. If this is what that's going to be like, then maybe I'll pick something that I'm really passionate about. So music is something that came very easily for me, and I decided on one fine day, I think I did freak Bruce when I went and told him that, hey, I want to be a full-time musician. And he was like, no, it's going to be hard. It's not as simple as you think it is. And I was like, Bruce, but I want to be this, you know.
Right.
And years later, he told me, yeah, man, I mean, are you kidding? Your dad's a cop and you're like this college kid. And if I encourage you, your dad comes in and catches me. What am I going to say?
That's a funny story.
Yeah, a very yeah. For me, it wasn't really like one day. Weirdly, I never asked myself what I wanted to be. I think it was always music was my thing. So because I think there was a lot of support also. Like I'm blessed to have a family that was saying, okay, if you want to do music, do music. So. And even in a time where there was not really a clear way to go, there was not really music schools or anything like that, especially for contemporary music, and especially if you want to do music production, all of that, it wasn't like how it is now. But so for me, I just knew, I think the calling that God had put on my, the skills that He had blessed me with.
Yeah.
So it was quite natural for me to just think, okay, I want to do music.
Right.
But I think it is like you were saying, it is a lot of hard work. Even when students who I teach now come and say, I want to do music. For me, I'm a little bit scared, and I'm like, all right, like why don't we like work through your foundations, get your basics right? Because it is a tough place.
So, can we put some parameters for hard work? When you say hard work, what are we looking at? What kind of work needs to be put in to become a professional musician?
I think that whole canvas has changed so much over the years, compared to when probably we started off versus now. Because now you have to be a musician, you have to know how to market yourself, you need to know music business side of things, and you very well need to know, like pretty much you're a DIY guy. It's no more that I'm a guitar player and I'll sit at home and gigs are going to come my way and knock on my door. It doesn't happen anymore. Like for example, even during this pandemic, if I've seen many really good playback singers not having any jobs because they didn't know how to record themselves at home. So the challenges are always a bit more, like now you need to know how to write your own stuff, record your own stuff, and even if not professionally mix it and master it, at least basics of music production, basics of social media marketing, basics of understanding how to get your paperwork right, like stuff like registering for IPRS to get your royalties, all these things like that, signing up with publishing deals and figuring out how to do sync music, how to reach out to whatever it is. You got to be like in 15 different places, and that means you're getting very less time to practice. Gone are the days where we could sit for 8 hours a day and just keep playing the guitar without forgetting about the world, because it's just so many things. Like there are days where you're called in for, hey man, you need to be here for a radio interview, you need to do this for that. So all those things comes in the way. So when we say it's hard work, it's a different level of hard work now. It's just not about knowing the skills and having all the knowledge of music, which is great. But we're also seeing a boom of how people who are possibly not like necessarily qualified, studied like musicians, but making music at home and doing whatever little they do, and because of social media they just boom and become successful. So there's also a bit of that fight happening. I think there's always, as musicians, we're like, man, we studied so much and what is happening? So there's always that going on in us. So it's a bit challenging, I guess. What are you looking at more?
I think excellence is one thing that comes to mind. There are so many things to be good at, like from social media to having a website to having contracts. Like if somebody says, hey, I want to record an album, how do you go about it? What are the processes involved? How do you book a studio? All of those things. There's a lot of intel and know-how. But also at the end of the day, I feel like, especially today, like excellence at your instrument or at your field is needs a little bit more attention, because I guess people like the fame and just the how fancy everything looks with music, and don't realize, hey, it takes a lot of work, it takes hours and hours of practice, and it takes just a lot of I think a kind of you can't give up. You just have to keep going for it. And if you are sure that, hey, this is what I've been made for, and the talents are so visibly, out there, then you just have to work hard at it and really be someone who's excellent at that. Whether it's music production, whether it's teaching, whether it's playing in a band, whatever it is. Yeah.
So what you're saying is, in order to be a successful musician today, it's not just playing music, but you need to be able to have quite a few other talents.
Exactly.
Like a lot of multitasking is required,
Yeah.
and then be not just be good at that, but also good at other things. So that combination of things will make.
Definitely. And I think a huge thing is that this is something that I sort of did with my bandmates during, we have these regular band meetings.
Right.
And there was one of these meetings where I kind of just brought this question and said, hey, can we figure out what does success look like for us individually? Like, what do you mean by success? What do I mean by success? Because I think it's important to have that clarity. Are you successful only if you're going to pack a Wembley? Or are you successful even if you're playing at a Hard Rock Cafe in Bangalore and you have like 200 people watching you? Are you successful if you're able to do what you do and you're able to put food on your plate and pay your bills? So I think it's important to define that, because that's kind of where we get lost, and we are chasing these endless goals, and it kind of spirals down. I mean, we look at mental health issues and all kinds of things cropping up because of going after fame, like Dillo was rightly saying. Fame's kind of become the big thing. It took us, like, for example, 3 years of our career, we didn't earn any money. We played gigs
as a band.
Yeah, we played gigs after gigs, and we were like kind of like the new band in town, the talk of the town kind of a thing. But the first 3 years, we made no buck.
Right.
It took us 3 years to earn our first rupee. I kid you not.
Okay.
So I'm talking about such stuff. So I think if it's rooted in hard work, and it's kind of like going through the furnace type of thing. If you stick around, then you start seeing the better half.
Yeah.
But if you're like, okay, I'm going to start off today, and then, where's my manager? Where's my makeup artist? And you start off that way, I think you're setting yourself up for a bit of a dive down, in maybe in a short period of time. So it's a bit risky there. Got to be a little careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. I think today is the age of metrics, right? Like how many views, how many followers, how many likes, and like you said, that's a very good point. Like if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, if you're just running after fame and those kind of things that are just fleeting, you will not be happy as a musician, because there can be mountains, there can be deep valleys also.
So I think what you're saying is, if you're a musician, you need to define your own success, because if you start defining by success as what happening to other people, then we are bound to fail, because you might not succeed in that way. But we need to be very clear, because it can be measured in different ways, like a Facebook likes or albums or concerts or whatever.
Exactly. Like I have a few clients like who I produce music for, and everybody wants to see that million view as soon as they release their first song. And I get that you want to you want your music to reach people, you want it to kind of go through the nations.
Right.
But I think that there is so much of hard work. Like if you take any big published artist, it's not like the first song hasn't been the one that clicked. Probably the fourth album, the sixth song in that album was the number one hit after 15 years. So I think that it's a long game. You got to stick it out.
Yeah, most of us don't know the backstory of the successful guys. Like we don't know how many times maybe they had to go be a backup singer or something like that in a studio, or like I don't know what it was like, and then for them to get their shot to fame song, and then something just clicks. It's kind of like being at the right place at the right time, meeting the right people. It's a lot about I feel it's like God's work in a way, like how he makes things happen. Like if he wants it for you, then you're gonna get it. That's kind of how I've seen it, and it's the ability of also being able to handle it. We can miss it. Like you could be really successful, but you're not recognizing it at all, because you're constantly chasing after the next million views and whatever it is, and you don't know what you already have. So it's kind of a tricky game there.
I think what you guys are sharing reminds me probably to call this conversation like MBA in music management, because like it's just not music, right? You got to work through a lot of other things that needs to come together, And that's why I'm saying that the focus now needs to be how to kind of put in all the hard work required to make sure all these things come together.
Yeah.
Wanted to talk about music per se, all right? Music as, I believe one of the things that, uh, I believe music is from God. There is nothing as, I mean, there is something as bad music, there's something as good music and stuff like that, but it's a medium
Yeah.
through which it can be used to shape lives or to influence a culture or motivate people, I mean, for good and bad. I mean,
Yeah.
so I guess from who we are and where we stand, what is your take on, if I have to ask you, God and music? Do you see a sync? Do you see a relationship? Do you see, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Definitely. I think, like, even if you look at the Bible, I think music was a very powerful element in a lot of people's lives, their journeys. And in like very key moments, I think music was used to impact people, heal, break bondages, deliver people. Also, sometimes you see music being used as a, in front of the battle. And so I think it's a very important thing. And I think we all know that, the power of music. And sometimes I think we don't give it enough credit. But it is it's a very powerful tool as in a form of artistic expression. I feel it can do things that you can't do otherwise, because nobody likes people going preaching around or saying, hey, do this. But if it's through a song, you can really bring about change. You can really bring about a lot of positive things through music.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it does. I mean, for me, yes, I agree with Dilu that music is definitely from God. It's a gift that I recognized it late, but I did recognize it eventually. That yes, it's a gift that I have from God, and He blessed it. And of course, there's the whole factor of understanding that any blessing that we get, end of the day, it's a medium, and we are the vessel to turn it either towards good or towards bad. And music is something, like, for me, it's a way of expressing myself. I'm not really big on words a lot. I think I always kind of struggle explaining verbally what exactly I have on my mind. But through music, I find it a bit easier to do it. And I think even if you look at how, like recently, there was this whole event that happened, an online event about reggae music, and how it was used as a medium to bring about social change. Like how it was such a big movement happening. So I think music has that power. I mean, imagine, we can't imagine weddings without music. We can't imagine birthdays without music. Funerals without music. We can't imagine movies without music. Everything just sounds dead without music. Even through pandemic, everybody wanted music. So it's there, and I think it goes beyond words, which is what amazes me. I think one of the biggest reasons why I do what I do is because, you have lyrics, it's great, it's fine. But the moment there is a certain chord, it invokes an emotion, which the words alone can't. It's the marriage of the words and the harmony which brings that emotion much stronger. So you can either mislead that, the words are happy but the harmony is sad, or you can kind of bring them into a perfect thing and then channel it and make it more intense. So I think it's the way of us expressing, and I think we relate to every life situation through music. Whether it's good things, bad things, breakups, whatever it is, music is an essential part. Definitely, it's no saying no to it.
I was at Binsong Festival in Hyderabad where you guys were playing, and I think there was a song called Topi Wale. I thought that was one of the phenomenal songs in terms of bringing to light a lot of things about what's happening in this nation in terms of the political leaders versus the common man. And for me, listening to you guys and watching it visually was like, I'm listening to a song. I know this. It's not like this is not the something, but listening to it as a song, I went and shared with my friends. Let's listen to this. This is fun because this is expressing in a non-threatening way. Like like today, now you go to a political party and say like you're like this, means nobody listen. But I think this is just painting a general framework so people can understand and relate to and make sure even when they vote or when they take decisions, they can, take the right ones so that, they can understand the nature,
Yeah,
good
yeah.
nature, bad nature of the leaders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about how do you decide what music you do? Is there something that helps you define it? Is there some principles that guide you?
We're getting into some
Yeah, now we're getting
interesting.
something. Yeah.
Yeah,
What defines the music? I'm not talking about listening, all right?
I
Listening,
get it. Yeah, I
you
get
can
it.
listen to anything, all right? But when you decide to play, what kind of music, what defines it? What are the principles that you go by?
I think that there are two sides to it. One is the sound aspect, which happens over time. Because when you start off, you don't know what you want to sound like. You don't know what is my sound.
Right.
And that my sound, like you took an example of one of our songs. How did we get where we are? We just played whatever felt natural on that day at that time whenever we met and played. And it was over a period of time of doing that, somehow a mix and blend of something comes in, and then it becomes like, okay, this seems to be our thing.
Right.
And even that thing keeps changing and evolving, as you go. But there's a principle side of it, So for us as a band, and for me as a musician, being with the band for 15 years now and doing what we do, we have written songs about stuff that affected us more than anything else. We never took like, hey, let's open the newspaper and see what's happening in the country and then write a song. No. If something bothered us, and it would be something that we would be hanging around, and and somebody in the band would bring up and say, hey man, you heard about that? That's so sad, and automatically somehow that thought is going to come into a song.
And you did one on religion also, how people can be blinded by some of the
it's one of our most popular songs.
I love that one also,
Yeshu, Allah or Krishna.
Correct,
And it's just talking about how things were same so many years ago and how things are the same now. And then who exactly is my God? I think it's a strong question, because every human being has that question. Especially in the times that we are living now.
Right.
Who is my God? Who is God? I mean, is there a God? Is there not a God? You always have that question. So I think that song came from that thought.
Right.
Somewhere in us when we jammed, maybe one of us had that thought. It came out. It just became a thing. And for us, we don't take it lightly when it comes to the responsibility and the impact that it has on people. And I've been more and more watchful now, ever since I've come to faith, about the kind of principles I hold on to when I make music with my band. Yes, we don't restrict ourselves in any way, but there are certain guidelines that I follow, which for me comes strongly from the Bible. If there are certain things God says it's a no.
Right.
This is a no for me.
Lovely, yeah.
Then I will not endorse that. I'll watch out on how I stand. And thankfully, I say God has again blessed me with such wonderful bandmates that I can openly share about this. I can tell them, hey, this topic is hard for me to stand on stage and present it, because it doesn't agree with me.
Right.
So I don't know how honest can I be standing with you all and doing this, and I won't be able to represent it well. And praise God that they have been so supportive.
Nice.
That they've always held back. They've
Nice.
said, okay, if it makes Varun uncomfortable, let's make the song about something else.
Right.
So
Right.
there is that responsibility factor, because
Yeah.
we've received messages where people have said they're battling through depression and one of our songs helped them get out of it. Man, it's scary when I read such things.
Good to name that song.
Yeah, we wrote a song called Mushkil Mein Jeena, which
that's
came
nice.
out in 2020.
Right.
And it was just about dealing with tough times.
Nice.
And we've got multiple messages on that song saying, that people are battling through depression and all kinds of stuff. It's really scary. It's humbling, it's scary, it's a huge responsibility to handle, but we're just trying to be there as a group. And I think being a band helps me deal with that than do it alone.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a huge argument of sorts, right? Of secular versus the sacred.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes the gap is so wide. And I think there's just a lot of contention and strife about, okay, what do I do? And all of that. But I think if you understand what it means to be a follower of Christ, and where you draw, like Varun said, those principles, then that would set all your decisions in course. I'm not saying it's easy, it's not. Sometimes you have to make tough choices, like
Yeah.
sitting your band down and
Right.
saying, hey guys,
Yeah.
this is what I think, voicing out your opinion, and what your, what you stand for, what your faith, what you believe in. So I've had to do that a number of times. Sometimes it was very uncomfortable. Sometimes, I've just been amazed at how people understand, and they appreciate you for taking that stand.
Right.
So it's the music by itself is music. So one of the main things for me is, okay, are the lyrics something that is going against what I believe in, and so I make different decisions based on what I'm looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys do that, because it's important also to be blessed with bandmates who understand,
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
your thinking, because it's not about your thinking that you're pushing. It is you who you are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's who you are, and they respect you because of who you are, more than just like
true.
pushing an ideology or a thinking
Yeah,
across.
Yeah.
And this secular and spiritual divide that is there. I think I always had a problem with that. Like education, is it secular or spiritual?
Yeah.
Like when you send your children to school,
Yeah,
secular or spiritual. When you ask them to talk about Darwin's theory, it's against the Bible, but you still ask them to do it.
Yeah.
Why are you like at that point of time coming and asking a question around this? It's going to be very interesting. But I feel that, music has a power to influence.
Yeah,
Influence and change people's lives and things like that. How has Dilo, you've been involved in also playing quite a bit in Christian. I know you played at our Generosity Summit when we did for Flatfish earlier and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, how has been audience engagement been when you look at whether it's a Christian music or whether it's I wouldn't say secular music, I would say neutral music, what we do.
I think there's a lot more engagement when it's like worship music, but I think I don't know whether it's a geographical thing or it's
I mean, it probably is a group thing, right?
Might be a
familiar group.
Yeah.
All do the same thing, same objective, same purpose.
yeah. I think there's a lot more takers for worship music or congregational music, but I produce a lot of artists who are not quote unquote worship leaders or
Right.
but their music still speaks from the word. It has
Right.
that basis, and it probably a message of hope.
Right.
Probably a message against suicide and depression. But if you look at how many people actually go listen to it from individual artists, like big bands like Pratma, I'm sure
Yeah.
people will listen to. But I think there's a lot of biases and things that I feel we have to work through. Find out music that that's good. If somebody from your own community has written stuff, support them. No matter whether it's like worship music or Christian music or whatever it is. I think we need to kind of rally together
Yeah,
for
definitely.
people creating art in our communities.
Yeah, I think that is important, because I'm also struggling with various different views, right? I mean, I want to be careful. I don't want to name any views, because so like when we do the Grammy, look at the Grammy nominations listing, especially, like there are a lot of views that are like might not be something that you subscribe to, right? But it's become very popular.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's happening in here in our Christian space is people want. There's nothing wrong in music being used to worship God. Right? That is it. That is there in the Bible. It's completely true, completely acceptable and all. But also there is this space where music needs to be used to channelize to change people's lives. All right? Like when we talk about depression, when we talk about suicide, and this is not just a religious problem, or it's not just a problem that Christians face. Everybody is facing. Everybody faces marriage about depression problem. Everybody faces marriage problems or parenting problems or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to see that, I'm just trying to ask this question, that we are in this space where we have answers or where we can lead people in the right direction. What else should we be doing in terms of making sure that the message gets across through the medium of music, of course? And if parents or young people needs to be encouraged to pursue music that influences people or music that brings about a change, what kind of approach they should have? What kind of thinking they should have?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm new to the whole Christian gospel music
Yeah.
side of things. I mean, one of my beef has been, every time I hang around with friends, everybody knows all the songs. They can just pick up the guitar. Like let's say I'm hanging out with our common friend Naveen.
Correct.
He'll just pick up the guitar. You want that song? Yeah, I know the chords. And I'm like, dude, what's going on, man? Like, I give me time. I need to learn these songs. Like, you can't throw me a worship set list on a Saturday and say, hey, can you come and play this tomorrow? I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I need to prepare. Like, hello, because I never grew up listening to these songs. So every song is a new song for me. I don't see it as, is this a Christian song, is this a secular song or a neutral song or anything of that sort. I think, we have our responsibilities there. We do look at the messages, we do look at all the things that the song associates, and then you just pretty much pick and choose. Because my thing is, end of the day, if you look at how what the Bible actually teaches, and which is sort of, I think, been misrepresented a lot for all of us as musicians, is that God gave us freedom to choose.
Right.
I think the book of Genesis starts with that. He gave us the freedom to choose. So who am I to stop somebody else's choice?
Right.
Whether it's the Billboard, top charts now that we get to listen to, or whatever is kind of like is the in thing right now. They have made their choice to do whatever they do, and it is not my duty or my it's not in my strength to change that as much as it is in God's strength to change it. Right. He knows how to change it. Right. If He wants to use me or Dilu or anyone to do something like that, sure, we're available for it. Right. But the change part of it always happens through their choice. Right. They choose that and they have to do it. So you're right in saying that it can't be forced. It can't be just thrown at them saying, hey, this is you can't play this kind of music. You should only do this. I have seen a little bit of that happening on multiple forums and discussions, and it does really like strike me in a very surprising way. Like, wow, like are you saying what I'm doing is wrong? Like, are you serious? Like, sort of a thing. But yeah, I don't know where it stems from. I haven't had the opportunity to go into the history of it to figure out where did this thing start? Like, why is there a secular music and Christian music? Or even some of the questions that I get, I have, stuff like, then why are you making money out of Christian music? Why is there an award function for Christian songs? If it's all about respecting that God gave me the gift and the glory is all for God, then why am I taking an award for it? Right. So I should be denying my awards. I should not even be asking for copyright. And if you get into the business angle, all the churches are using songs to worship, but are we paying royalties for it?
Yeah.
So the lines are really kind of blurry in that sense. I think it's you got to ask God for the wisdom and kind of walk with caution in what you do.
Right.
But yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd love to hear what Dilu has to say to it.
I think coming back to that idea of like, is there other music other than worship music and stuff like that from our communities? I feel there needs to be a platform, or the platforms are there already. But I think we need to recognize people that are doing music that is not like, say, particularly just worship music or something like that, but our music, is music that is powerful, that is giving a message of hope in a non-threatening way. But I feel like, what Varun said, like, we all know all the worship songs, we're only all about that. And as soon as you're a Christian and you are a musician, then hey, you have to do Christian music. That's the immediate kind of this plus this equals this. But I think it just requires people to think a little bit more openly about music and about the arts, and say that, hey, we can influence different spheres, different parts of our world through music.
So, what is the role excellence plays in this?
In this,
Yeah.
I think it's.
Or let me ask another question. If excellence is not involved, do you back out? Do you say, I'm uncomfortable with this?
Yeah, I think it is. I find it very uncomfortable if I have to play. Like, I mean, I have played in churches before. Like, I have done that before. But when other musicians are not doing their bit, or they're not musicians at all, I'm learning to find that balance of, I need to see the heart behind why the person is here and why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Right.
It's not the same as me performing on stage with my band, but I hold my band with the same standards.
Right.
I'm like, hey guys, we got to be up there. Like, no way. If you're not sure of that, that's not happening. We got to learn our parts and come. You can't be there and just wing it. That's not cool. Because in that scenario, people are paying to come and watch you perform. They're paying for that time of entertainment. But one of the powerful things that I learned from a church podcast again was that I'm not going to name the church or the worship leader as such. She said that the worship band is supposed to be like an invisible thing, providing a connection between the congregation and God. And if you are mucking up, you're ruining that connection.
Right.
Because they're going to get distracted instead of just closing their eyes and worshiping. They're like, something sounds weird, and I think so. To me, it does bother the excellence bit of it, but I'm also learning to find that balance, and not entirely tiptoe on one side too much.
I like that description as an invisible channel, right?
Yeah.
To connect people to God. I think I like that. Yeah, because excellence is something I think that is now more and more coming into limelight, because earlier we could play whatever we want to play and then get away with it, but now with people being exposed to music, people watching things, people like listening to so many things, suddenly they know what is great and what is not, and what is mediocre. And definitely I think with God on our side, mediocrity is not something that we want to get used to in any way, right? I mean, it's something that we want to get over that and always keep raising the benchmark. So let me ask you a Sunday school question. All right?
Okay.
What's your favorite song?
My favorite song, well, current like Christian song,
Whichever.
anything. I mean, currently, like today, I was listening to Josat
Okay.
when I was, riding down and coming here. I was listening to my,
Nice.
one of my favorite albums of his, "Flying in a Blue Dream."
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful album, and for me, I don't know, it connects me so much, like when I'm listening to that beautiful playing, I'm like, wow, like, God, you made this possible, like really, like, wow, this is so cool,
Nice. Currently, I was listening to like an old album actually from this artist called Stephen Curtis Chapman.
Right.
There's an album called Speechless. So the song
great,
Speechless.
yeah.
Yeah. So that I was just listening to recently, and right now I was just vibing to that. I can't say like this is my favorite song. Right now, that's on my mind. Yeah.
Nice.
That's ancient, man. That is
No, but I think when you look at it from a production standpoint, it's like there's like string sections, there are like crazy drums, there's insane guitars, and still everything is like holding forth. So like, wow, how do they do that?
Yeah, I think times have changed. I think music has changed. So, what has been some of the songs that, if I may ask, I mean, you can say no to that. You don't have to answer this. Like when you have had your own tough times, like everybody goes through tough times. Either it could be family front or professional front, or probably when you were down. What is the song that has lifted you up? Or that has, it might not be like popular. I mean, I'm not worried about that. I'm only trying to understand. You're all normal people, right? You're those musicians. I know on a stage there is stardom, definitely yes. But I think definitely you all go through hurts and pains. So, what's the kind of music, or what is the song that's lifted you up?
I think it's kind of very seasonal. Like
Yeah.
Dilu was saying, currently that's my jam. It's like pretty much I go to whatever my jam is at that
Right.
point in time, and of course I do have my favorite bands that I love that I may just play. Sometimes it's also happened to me that I'm like, hey, I don't want music right now. I don't want that right now. Maybe I'll switch to a movie, and watch something funny and just get myself out of it, or maybe just going and talking to somebody and spending time, So I've also had that phase, and there are many a times on the flip side, a song that I play night after night with my band, that it's taken a new meaning on stage.
Right.
Like when we're playing, I'm like, wow, like in this place where I am right now, this song means so much to me. Like right now, it's like, wow, and sometimes it's a mix of mix of all of that. You know, I could be listening to pop music. You know, if I just want to feel,
Right.
you know. But again, because here's the thing, right? Like you know, you let's say you're listening to like bands like you know, Radiohead or you know, or even Nirvana for that matter.
Right.
I'm just saying, you know, I mean, you're feeling really weird and awkward or bad, you know, or you're feeling down, and you're going to music like this, which is kind of like a natural gravitational thing. It drags you into it, but it's going to pull you down more because they are just in that space. They're constantly talking about these subjects. It's going to draw you down. So you may want to contrast it in such times and be a little careful. So that's what, again, it kind of comes back to be careful with the kind of music that we listen
Right.
to. You know, not to say that these bands are bad. I mean, they're fabulous bands. You know, they make great music, or they made great music. But we need to know, for me, as the type of personality that I have and the type of guy that I am, is this going to lift me up or is this going to pull me down?
Yeah. Because sometimes when music pulls you down, you still enjoy it.
Yeah.
And you're still
Yeah.
going down.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that is where we need to be sensitive to understand
Yeah.
whether this music that I enjoy is pulling me down or
Yeah,
lifting me
yeah,
up.
yeah.
That is discernment I think we all need to
Yeah,
have.
it's like
Very
that.
true.
It's that old school rock star thing, right? Hey
Right.
man, I'm sad, and it's cool to be sad.
Sad,
You know
yeah.
what? My song comes from my pain, and
Yeah.
you hear that a lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the reality is that hey, it's not cool.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not only there in the rock space. I do a lot of pop stuff also,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it's a lot in the, you know, in the pop world, where it's just songs that kind of just drag you down.
Right.
It might be nice the first time, but then I think you can just live in that space for a while.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, for me it's hymns. Some of the old hymns come to found, hymns like that. Sometimes it's very new Maverick City kind of stuff. Sometimes it's music that's not even worship music or anything like that. So it's a wide range.
So because you met Kamda Fountain, so which would be, let me ask, which would be your favorite Christian song that has given you or help you see a new angle or new revelation of God?
Oof.
Does that something that has said, oh, okay, God, you're like this, or this is your nature? Did any of the songs like that influence you?
Okay, so when I first came to faith, like literally, like the day I accepted and those few weeks,
Right.
I was listening to Audrey Assad.
Right.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I don't know, I just had that on my iPod, and it was my morning jam. I would literally wake up in the morning and I was like this kind of like this teenage guy in love type of a phase. I was like, oh wow, this is the new day. Everything is blue, everything is so green, and everything's so white. And I'm like, wow. I used to see everything in that way, and I used to listen to Audrey Assad a lot, and I used to listen to Gungor a lot at that point. Some of the earlier work that they have done. And I fell in love with that music. I was like, wow. And then another common friend of ours, Sharon, she put me in touch with David Baloch. Oh yeah. So I was listening
Paul
to
Baloch,
Paul Baloch.
yeah, no, his brother or
His brother?
something.
Oh,
yeah.
maybe, yeah.
The other guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're related. So he has an album. I forget the name of the album. It's like the silver gray thing. It's so cool. The synth work on it is like wow. And he's literally pulled out verses and made songs out of it with just using really cool synths. It's like your Stranger Things synths going on, but it's verses and beautifully sung. And I think it just sounds fabulous. You know, it's like really, really like, wow, this gives me like a different picture of who it is. You know, even stuff like Sparrow.
Yeah.
There's so much packed in that song, you know. It's like wow, like his eyes on the sparrow. I'm like wow, like he sees so much detail. So it just keeps giving you that kind of revelation, you know, through these songs.
That's nice.
Yeah, for me, like, I like songs like that are like, you know, those verses, you know, those you know those biblical themes, but in a song form they just impact you in such a powerful way. So Sparrow was one song for me too, by Audrey Assad. It's just so many songs. I really don't know how to pick. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. So two questions I have, and I want you to think about it and answer. One is looking forward. I mean, I know there's a lot happened in the music world or Christian music world, whatever it is over the years. Looking forward, what do you see? Or let me put it: what do we need to do to make music influence people's lives? What else can we do to bring about a change in people? What kind of stuff needs to be done so that, uh, there can be a strong influence that can be passed on through music?
I think culturally,
In India, I mean, obviously, that's the context.
yeah, I think that there needs to be like an acceptance of art and a kind of a push to get into art. And like I feel like in our context, especially when I was growing up, it's like, hey, either you're an engineer or a doctor, or you're like,
Yeah.
you're
Or
nobody.
you're nothing.
Yeah. So I had to like, so that you have to. I think we have to combat those kind of stereotypes.
Yeah.
And because I'm sure there are like we're a huge country, and there's so much more music that can come out, so that can impact the world.
Right.
And especially in our Christendom, we are always influenced from outside, like
Right.
Western songs. Okay, this person released a song. Next week, all our churches are singing that song.
Right.
But are we doing songs from other churches, from our own situations?
Culture.
Yeah, singing from our own experiences of what we are going through as a community. I don't see that too much. So I think just a kind of an open mind, pushing people into the arts,
Right.
and supporting people once they're there, supporting our own teams, bands, artists would be a big help. Yeah.
No, I think like he's right in saying, I think at the core it comes down to having an open mind. I think we all need to grow to be more open, in accepting things and not being too stereotyped, even with the kind of instruments we choose to make music. I mean, why can't we use Indian instruments? What's wrong with it? Why should we only use the Western instruments? Why should all our guitars be soaked in reverb? Like stuff like that, like simple things. But again, having things that, because end of the day, this is the thing, right? Okay, look at what's happening in the OTT world. Just to kind of go there for a minute. More people are consuming regional content.
Right.
There's a sudden boom of regional OTT platforms.
Right.
Why? Because people are relating to regional stuff. End of the day, we are bound by a certain culture, and no matter how much we like other things, there are some things our culture that we have grown up in kind of draws us back. We are going to be who we are. I think that bit needs to come in. Number one, if it has to become more relatable, and also from our end to also be more open in relating to people, and kind of having that truly imitating Christ in that sense. What if he was a musician? What if, let's say, Jesus was a musician on earth?
Right.
What kind of music would he play?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
He was hanging
like
around
that.
with prostitutes.
Yeah.
He was hanging around with tax collectors who were bad people back then. He was hanging around with, people. He said, "I came here for sinners, not for the sick."
For sick.
Yeah. So he said, "I came for the sick people. The doctor is not needed for somebody who's well."
Right.
So then we need to have that attitude in everything we do, because he calls us to imitate him, and I think we got to find that. Somehow. And I think the more we do that from a genuine, natural place, wherever we come from, whatever background, whatever it is, I believe it'll find its way of impacting people. I don't think we need to strive, because that goes into the whole, let me get so many views kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be going in that space. I think we should just stay obedient, do whatever we believe at this point in time, whatever I feel is the right thing to do, that he's put on my heart. Let me just do that obediently, and the rest he'll make it happen. Music business is nothing for him. Really.
Right. Yeah, true. I like that. One last question I want to ask is I know you guys have been through your tough times. You had your stardom. You've been there on the big stages, big names, and stuff like that. At the end of the day, what do you individually want to be known by? What kind of legacy do you want to leave as individuals? What is that thing that you want people to remember you for? As an individual, and things that it's a more a vision kind of a question, but I just want all the young audience to hear what you dream, what do you want to be known for?
For me, it's a very interesting question, very tricky question, because people who've known me really well know me that I run away from titles. It's something that I'm so uncomfortable. When we start putting titles to ourselves, and so it's something that I'm very careful about, because for me, like right now, even as a guitar player for a fairly popular band from the scene, producing music, doing all these things, tied up with brands which are globally known. At the end of the day, I'm like, hey, I don't want it to be about me.
Right.
You know, I don't want people to be like, hey, that guy was like this great guy or something. I mean, I'm fine with just my friends cherishing me as, hey, you know, he was our great friend or whatever. That's cool. But I don't ever want to put out this sort of a title,
Right.
you know, or as any big like a worship leader or this or any of that. If I feel like I need to worship God, I'll do it in my way. But I don't ever want that to become a title. You know, I don't ever want to be because end of the day, I'm a human being and I'm imperfect.
Yeah.
You know, I'm imperfect even right now. You know, in what I'm saying, but the person who's listening to it is going to make more sense of it than what I'm saying, because God does something in between this to that point. So I would just want to be vulnerable and as imperfect as I am, and as I'm growing, I just want to show that.
Right.
I think that's the legacy I want to leave. You know, not really being anything more than that.
Wonderful.
Nice. Yeah, like you were saying, like we're all human, and I think for me, if I what I've been journeying along with these days is to be someone who finds joy in Christ alone, and not, you know, views, you know, popularity. Even sometimes I can be very proud of the drum sound that I've made for a song, or okay, this album's guitars are so much better than that album's. Because like, you know, you're very sensitive as a musician. You're like, you know, you want your music to really be good and all of that. But I know all of that doesn't satisfy at the end of the day. So I think I haven't found it. I'm not there yet. But my hope is that at the end of my life, that people will say that he found his joy in Christ.
Yeah, I think I love I love what you guys said. You know, find joy in Christ, especially. I mean, when we know where we stand, right? That makes a huge lot of a difference.
Yeah.
And very interestingly, you also mentioned, Varun, that it's that we're all imperfect people, and you want to be a good person. I think known by
Yeah.
a good person. So I think that also brings to the point that, you know, it's not like you want to be a great musician kind of a dream, but it's more about a normal guy who's trying to work his way through music
Yeah.
to bring about influence, to bring about a change in this world, so that people's lives are blessed, people's lives are touched, and God is glorified.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's important. Yeah,
Yeah, that's important.
true. Yeah.
One of the things that what I gathered from the conversation was that you wanted to be the person who finds joy in Christ, and that was absolutely great. And also what Varun said about, you know, being known as a good guy who's there to help people and do things through music to bring about a change in our community and a change in our society. So we are very glad to have Dillu and Varun on this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you have any questions for them, you can put it in the comments, and then we will share it with them, and they'll be happy to get back to us. So let's get on to this journey where we understand that music is a platform, or music is a channel through which a lot of change can happen in this world today. God bless you all.